successful economic forecaster in among all the economists around today. And specifically, Mr. LaRouche has revived what's called the American system of economics, which is a very pro-growth industry, manufacturing, agriculture, infrastructure, water, science, space program. All of these things that we have campaigned for, and I've been involved over 40 years with LaRouche Political Action Committee, is exactly what Donald Trump is talking about. Reviving, or as you mentioned, make America great again, which means make America's manufacturing, production, agriculture great again. And the enemy of that system, historically and to this very day, and this is what most Americans don't realize, Bedros, is the British system. And we can show in this case today of who's attacking Trump, the war on Trump, as you called it, it actually comes from London. And all of the dirty deeds that London has done, and we can discuss, and I'm sure you know a good amount of history. Let's just take World War II to the present. The British have been the experts at divide and conquer. You know, whether it was the plan in 1917, the Balfour Plan in the Middle East, whether it was dividing India and Pakistan, whether it's playing off this one, that one. At the end of World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt said to Churchill, we're going to end colonialism. We did not fight the war against the Nazis to have British colonialism continue. Unfortunately, Roosevelt died. And Harry Truman went under the thumb of Winston Churchill and the Iron Curtain policy. Blame Russia. Russia, who we had just allied in World War II to defeat the Nazis. So another president, John F. Kennedy, in the 1960s, wanted to revive America's system. Space program. Boom. You know, Kennedy was mowed down, and the full truth has never come out. Although we know that Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone assassin. So we come to the case of LaRouche and Trump today as representing the anti-British system, the pro-American system, the return to a functioning economy, giving young people hope in a concrete, optimistic future. And that is the real reason President Trump is under attack. He was not supposed to be elected president. They were supposed to have, you know, Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton when they couldn't get Jeb Bush. And so that is going to be decided, I believe, in the next days and weeks, whether this Muller, who is a hitman for the British, who we know very well what this guy has been involved in. He was the head of the FBI during 9/11. He covered up totally the Saudi involvement in 9/11. 3,000 Americans died. And Mueller doesn't give a shit about that. In the case of LaRouche, Mueller was directly involved in prosecuting and persecuting LaRouche. And now, in this case of Trump, to this minute, they have created a phony investigation, and it's about to fall apart. It's been falling apart. So we are calling on the listeners, people there, to get active. And LaRouchePAC has produced enormous amounts of literature over the years on the British. One book you had seen, Dope Incorporated, about the British involvement in the drug trade. The banking, Hong Kong Shanghai Bank admitted laundering hundreds of billions in drug money, and they get off with a slap on the pinky. Barely. You know? Meanwhile, the people victimized by this are sitting in prisons, have had their lives destroyed. So that's the main theme I would like to bring out, is to make the battle lines clear so that people can understand what they can do to be part of defeating what has created the malaise and the pessimism that is very unnatural. It's natural for people to be optimistic. It's natural to want to have a future. And that's what we hope that Trump can do now, is throw off this bullshit investigation of Mueller and then go on to the cooperation with Russia, with China, in these wars. Like the war in Syria is practically over, whereas Obama was supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. You know, so it's a big change. People should not say all the politicians are all the same. That's bullshit. They're not all the same. Obama supported the Muslim Brotherhood. Trump is worked with Russia to end the terrorism. And so that's the hope for the future, but it's going to be up to the citizens, because the political party system, as you well know, is controlled by money from Wall Street in both parties. And so that's what we're out to do, is to break that control over the political process by these criminals.
Well, you call them criminals. I call them the globalist and blood-hungry. We heard a few months ago about the pedophiles and sex slaves and child molesters, and basically they're elected in the offices that they use the power to molest and humiliate people and citizens. So the issue right here is, you said very important, you stated very important points, let's put it that way, and specifically about Robert Mueller is out there to destroy Trump and fabricate lies, but he also said he works for the British. Can you elaborate on that? What kind of documents you have, and what kind of what intelligence report is this?
Okay. The most important point that has not come out till very recently, which we've been talking about, is a man named Christopher Steele, who was British MI6. Now, the last I checked, if Mueller is investigating a foreign country involved in the U.S. election, it looks like the foreign country involved is Britain. That is, Christopher Steele, who worked for 20-some years for MI6 and then, quote, retired, and it's questionable whether he ever retired, Christopher Steele, and the GCHQ head Hannigan were the ones who started attacking Trump, Paul Manafort, Trump's manager, as early as 2014, 2015. They looked at the candidates and they said Trump is unreliable. You notice, Trump has not gone to London since he's been president. That's usually the first place that Obama went. He went to London and Saudi Arabia in April 2009. He was already kissing the Queen's rear end, not Trump. In fact, when Theresa May came flying over on her broom, and they had a press conference, Trump said something when the BBC reporter asked the obnoxious question. He said, "Theresa, there goes that special relationship," out the door. So what we have in Christopher Steele is a dossier, or what's called opposition research. Dossier is a fancy name. And this opposition research / dossier written by Christopher Steele, it looks like it came from the National Enquirer. They put in a bunch of salacious claims. Now, here's the amazing thing. Mm-hmm. Christopher Steele was paid by Hillary Clinton was paid by Barack Obama's Organizing for America, was paid by the Democratic National Committee through a law firm, Perkins Coie, that hired a firm in D.C. called Fusion GPS. And Fusion GPS then hired Christopher Steele. So they went through like 4 levels of trying to bury this so no one would know what was going on. But Christopher Steele wrote this dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, DNC, through these cutouts, was never reported on the expenditure forms, which itself is a big violation of the election laws. And that document by Christopher Steele of a lot of garbage that he paid for through contacts he had in Russian organized crime, not the Putin government, but Russians that are part of perhaps, dirty networks, etc., that said Trump peed in a bed and Trump did this and that and the other thing. And then that document paid by Hillary Clinton was taken by an FBI agent, Peter Strzok. This is what's come out. This is the breaking news this week. The FBI agent, who was quoted in text messages with his girlfriend, Lisa Page, who was the lawyer for the second in command of the FBI, Mr. Andrew McCabe. And Andrew McCabe, Lisa Page, and Peter Strzok said Hillary Clinton should win 100 million to 0. But in case she doesn't win, we have to have an insurance policy. We have to have a backup plan. And our contention is that backup plan of Peter Strzok, Christopher Steele, McCabe, Lisa Page, and others was this investigation of Trump that was engineered by Peter Strzok, who went to the surveillance court, okay, and used this dossier of Christopher Steele to start an eavesdropping over Trump and people supporting Trump. So it was the British, through Christopher Steele, working through these, quote, deep state operatives who are in FBI, CIA, NSA networks that then, and one other thing about this guy, Peter Strzok, he was the one who exonerated Hillary Clinton. The same guy changed the wording so that Hillary Clinton, even though she had let her servers classified information out, he changed the wording from gross negligence to carelessness. Oh, she was just a little careless, nothing too big. He interviewed Hillary Clinton after they already decided to exonerate Hillary Clinton. Peter Strzok. So the same guy, and I mean, I have all the dates this happened. June 16th, Steele's involvement, Hannigan, Peter Strzok, July 2nd, interviews Hillary Clinton. July 5th, Comey says no charges against Hillary Clinton. July 19th, 2016, Trump wins the Republican nomination. July 2016, an investigation of Trump was opened by Peter Strzok. He's the one who signed the document. The same guy who less than a month ago had exonerated Hillary Clinton, who the tape messages between his girlfriend, illicit girlfriend, Lisa Page, says, we need an insurance policy. This is their operation, to be able to either throw Trump out through this or impeach him, but put a paralysis in the Trump administration so they can't act on what they're committed to, which is peace in the world, ending the war in Syria, ending the war in Ukraine, working with China and Russia for peace in Korean Peninsula. That is Trump's intention. There's no question about that. That is all being kept out of the media. Every time you look at the media, you got this guy, Stryer, Trump's about to have a nuclear war with North Korea. You know, impeach him today, yesterday, the day before, you know. So the media and these networks in the deep state working with the British, who are going back to that policy of Winston Churchill, keep the British Empire going through other means, not just military, but controlling the media, controlling the flow of information. And in this case, we got them dead to rights. We caught them. Their names, their address, their phone numbers, their statements, that they conspired. So they started an investigation against Trump. 10 weeks ago, we put out this pamphlet on Mueller. We distributed it to every congressman. And these congressmen, like Congressman Devin Nunes from California, Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, they have subpoenaed all the records about Christopher Steele, about Peter Strzok, about Mr. McCabe, Lisa Page. And the FBI and Mueller for months just didn't answer. Didn't say boo when they got a legal subpoena. Finally, Nunes said, we're going to hold you in contempt of Congress. And then things now have started dribbling out just in the last few days. But that's not the whole picture. But enough of the picture has come out now that even a Harvard poll said 60-some% do not trust Mueller. They do not trust the FBI. Well, why should they trust the FBI and Mueller? They just exonerate Hillary Clinton, you know, change stick and turn around and use a phony dossier to smear Trump. Why would you, you know, and as people have pointed out, one of the reasons they don't like Trump is he says, I don't trust the intelligence agencies. Guess what? If John F. Kennedy had not trusted them about the Bay of Pigs, if Lyndon Johnson didn't trust them about the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, if the lies about the war in Iraq, you know, the war in Vietnam, all these lies from the intelligence agency, that's why we've been destroyed. So thank God we have a president who doesn't trust the liars, you know? So this accounts for, number one, who's attacking Trump? Number two, why are they attacking Trump? Number three, how this actually opens them up to be crushed. And that is what I want to urge. I know I went through some details, and there's a lot more, but I think if everyone got a copy of this, and I'm, you know, willing to get people copies of this, we just printed 10,000 more. Robert Mueller is an amoral legal assassin. He will do his job if you let him. Okay? This is what LaRouchePAC has put out 10 weeks ago. We went through 10,000 of them. We got it out all over Congress, all over areas in New York, like around Trump Towers, like other World Trade area and UN areas. We got it out at the Federal Building in Los Angeles area, San Francisco, Houston, Chicago, Detroit, all the main cities. We're getting this pamphlet out, and we just printed 10,000 more. So we're going to continue to drive this point home, that these liars, cheats, criminals, the deep state, but the British Empire is the motive. The motive is Trump is a threat, because Trump actually believes in the United States of America. He may not be a perfect man. You know, I grew up in New York, and Trump's father ran the shut down part of Coney Island to build a housing project, so we didn't like when we were kids, but the point is, he is a patriot. He cares about the United States. He's not a globalist flunky like Barack Obama or the Bush babies. And every American should really get out there and fight for this guy, because he is the real thing. And the way you know that is by how much he's attacked. So he's doing everything he can, but it's up to the citizens to really be part of the equation, because there has been such a stink in the political party system.
I know he's been attacked before he was even elected, and all this news about his character way before he even was elected actually is evidence that the guy, current president, has been attacked. And even the polls before the election, up until that night, the election, they were showing that he's losing. Up until the last minute, nothing was being told that was honest. I don't know what's going on with the television, but it's not switching for some reason, but let's keep on talking.
Yeah. Let me just say on that point, the places that Trump won that surprised the hell out of everyone was the industrial Midwest and other states. Like the state of Michigan, state of Ohio, Pennsylvania. Okay? This is very important to realize. These are productive people that are seeing their kids destroyed by drugs. They're seeing their kids go off to Iraq or Afghanistan for 2, 3, 4 terms, coming back, shells of human beings thrown into the garbage can, by these endless wars of who? The British Empire. Like the killing of Gaddafi in Libya. All right? These kinds of things that have, and Mueller was right in there on the cover-up of 9/11, which was the excuse, for the wars. So by destroying Mueller now, and like I say, 10 weeks ago, it looked like Mueller was riding high, and now Mueller and his people are on the verge of getting kicked out, and people like this Peter Strzok, they should be put 10 years in Leavenworth. They should be put in jail. This is outrageous that someone in law enforcement is saying, we need an insurance policy to keep Trump out, and then he signs a phony warrant. The former U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., Joseph D. Genova, said, if these guys did what it looks like they did, they took a fake dossier and swore to the FISA court, which is a Federal Intelligence Surveillance Court, and got a warrant to spy on Trump based on false information, they all go to jail. That is heinous crimes, and no one should accept that ever.
Falsification of the evidence, basically, and to keep on destroying America as they wish, as they had pre-planned. Because here is where I will go. Our education system is one of the lowest throughout the world. Let's be honest, and that's what they've done. Our prison systems have more inmates than anywhere in the world has any numbers. The world's largest prison systems are in the United States, actually, as you know. Our drug addiction is higher than anything. So obviously these people that have been elected all these years, Barack Obama, Bush, they've been serving the will of the globalists for wars, for Iraq, for Afghanistan, for Libya, for Syria, and the wars, and for Russia, for Kiev. Number of unnecessary color revolutions through Soros fundings and through their elite fundings that has been happening. Obviously, they don't want to see somebody come and stop somebody in the seat that stops this chaos that is been taking place. That's very clear. However, you have this journal which is talking about special investigation report, Robert Muller, an armored legal assassin. He will do his job if you let him. What does it mean if he will do his job if you let him? It means he will destroy America. He will destroy real people that want to help America. Is that what that means?
Yes, it means exactly that. And there's another aspect in terms of what you just touched on, which is why they're so eager to get rid of Trump by any means. okay? And that is the promise and potential of Trump joining with a new system. And again, Americans, because of this British and deep state and media bullshit blackout, people don't know that there is a new set of relationships that's called the New Silk Road, the One Belt, One Road policy. In fact, today I was reading in Armenia, the foreign ministry had a meeting with a group from China to open up new relationships in trade between Armenia and China just today. It just happened today. And what happened is in 2013, so now we're talking 4 years ago, the president of China, Xi Jinping, announced that China had a new policy called the New Silk Road. In 1997, LaRouche publication, EIR, had called for a new Silk Road, a locomotive for worldwide economic development. Okay? So this policy of Lyndon LaRouche as a physical economist against the financial speculators of Wall Street and London, this policy of a credit system for infrastructure, as in high-speed rails. China has built 20,000 kilometers of high-speed rail since when Obama was president. Obama said he was going to be the high-speed rail president. I remember when Rahm Emanuel said that. And they built a total of none high-speed rail. China built 20,000 kilometers. Okay? China built the Great Three Gorges Dam project for water management and water control to deal with areas of drought. This was what John F. Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt wanted to do and was doing. So the New Silk Road of China now involves 70 countries. It involves projects that are in the level of about 4 trillion. And it's 20 times bigger than the whole Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe at the end of World War II. Africa has high-speed rails now in Ethiopia. Africa has high-speed rails now in Kenya, new rail systems. They announced new transcontinental rail systems in Africa. Okay? This is what Trump is committed to. So our view is that by stopping the coup, shutting Mueller and these FBI fatheads down, you know, keep them out of trouble, put them away somewhere in Leavenworth, you know, Alcatraz, wherever you got empty spots, Sing Sing in New York, that might be a good spot. Now, so then, by the time Trump makes his State of the Union address, which is about 45 days from now, Trump will come out as this coming year, we are going to fulfill what I promised, which is major infrastructure, okay? Major big projects, new skill levels, take the young people and give them apprenticeships, give them an optimism for the future. And that will shut down exactly what you've said and identified correctly is the problem. The bankster gangsters, the bastards who've been bailed out. You know, part of Trump's trip to Asia, he came back with $250 billion of agreements of China to invest in the United States, including $83 billion in the state of West Virginia alone for energy, chemical, and manufacturing processes. The governor of West Virginia is like saying this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to them. And yet it's not covered. You could read the LA Times till you're blue in the face and you'll never find a word about it. And that's what we're going to be getting out, a second pamphlet on the United States joining with China with the New Silk Road and adopting what we call Mr. LaRouche's 4 laws, which is a return to what's called traditional banking, where banks are not gambling casinos, where there's no multi-trillion gambling on derivatives, and then when they lose their bets, they get bailed out. 85 billion. Okay, China invested 83 billion in West Virginia. The Federal Reserve invested 85 billion in Goldman Sachs, Citibank, et cetera, et cetera. They're investing the money in the wrong places. You know, you invested in the people and the infrastructure and the future. You don't invest it in bailing out the past. And Trump actually said this in regard to the situation with the hurricanes when he went to Puerto Rico. He went to Texas. He went to Florida. He was there on the ground. He saw what it is. He said, these people can't pay back the debt to Wall Street. He said Wall Street can wave goodbye to their debt. Okay? And so that is going to be the test over these next 40 to 50 days, is can we break the back, break the fingers, break the control that this bunch of gangsters and imperial British allied forces in the United States, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, you know, they got their fingers in everything. They had Hillary Clinton. She was their little patsy. And they put billions into Hillary Clinton. And when Trump won, you know, they had a heart attack. They went nuts. So that's what we're dealing with. Stop the coup and a strategy for economic renaissance and breakout in the United States in conjunction with who Trump is working beautifully with China. Trump had a beautiful meeting with China. Now Trump has to meet Putin on the side because of these idiots with this phony investigation. It's like, if he talked to Putin, it's illegal. Arrest the president. Professor Stephen Cohn from NYU said, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen. If you have a diplomacy among countries, you talk to people. General Flynn, of course, he had to talk to the Russians. In fact, that same guy, Peter Strzok, is the one who interviewed Flynn without even telling him he was going to interview him. They came to the White House and basically questioned him. Where from the eavesdropping, they had the transcripts of what Flynn said in these discussions. So, did you meet Ambassador Kislyak on Thursday? No, I thought it was Friday. Oh, you lied to the FBI. So this is hardball, this is war, and there's a lot at stake. And if people want to know what's really going on, and what, more important also with that, what they can do about it. Because it's one thing to, quote, know what's going on, but it's another thing to take responsibility like Mr. LaRouche did and come up with an alternate policy and then work day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, and get this new Silk Road policy that we were talking about 30 years ago. Actually started when the wall came down in Berlin. And LaRouche said, we got to reconstruct Eastern Europe. We got to work together. But the bankers let the International Monetary Fund come in and rape Eastern Europe and rape the former Soviet bloc countries and Russia itself. So that's what we're dealing with. A reversal of the policies that have failed, that have completely failed. Why do you want to keep going with policies that have led to destruction when here you have China? It brought 800 million people out of poverty. That's a success story. They're having 7 to 10% growth rate every year, So
Absolutely.
If Trump hitches his stars, which he's indicated, and he did with that great trip to China and Asia, we are on a road to a renaissance in the United States. That's what we're pushing for, and that's what we're fighting for. And I think every citizen should be part of that. who gives a hoot about
The public is daily public. They're bombarded with false information through fake news, such as CNN and all those illegitimate news agencies that are globalists, and they're paid to destroy natural human mind. How does one overcome all this misinformation? How do they get in contact with your organization that you represent, so they can get the right pamphlets that we have right now, the dossier in our hands, which Robert Muller, an assassin, which basically he's doing the will of MI6, British intelligence, to destroy the United States within, with their false information and false accusations, and anybody that they don't agree with, they can come back and say you lied to the FBI, you're getting arrested. Obstruction of justice. So basically, they are abusing the law, and it is up to the citizens to stand up and fight it, because major drug dealers that are being funded through their bank accounts, they don't get arrested. The major drug transportations that come to the United States through the borders, because they paid certain agencies, they don't get arrested. We never hear these major busts unless it is not paid to them, and they of course they're arrested if you're not working with these agencies. So basically this whole system is corrupt inside down. That's why we see all the infrastructure destroyed within, because nobody really cares. And all the fake promises that they come and during the elections they talk about to the Armenians, for us they talk to us about the genocide, which they never do anything. They just talk about it when the time comes for election, and that's when they bring this subject up. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a situation that people need to know the facts, documents, just like you have here in this book, in this dossier, in this journal. One thing, for example, we can see Victoria Nuland, Assistant Secretary for State for European Eurasian Affairs under Obama, hands out cookies to ground troops of the color revolution. So basically, they don't only support the revolution, they don't only destroy countries, but now they go on and buy them with cookies. Unfortunately, that's a cheap game.
Well, let me.
Right.
It's interesting you brought up, because one of the things we found out just this week is Christopher Steele, the same guy who did this dossier. He did 100 different memos on Ukraine. And British intelligence were the ones who saved the pro-Hitler Nazis at the end of World War II. The Banderistas, they're called, followers of Stefan Bandera. So, and the British, through Victoria Nuland and Kerry, were getting those documents from Christopher Steele that orchestrated the Maidan coup. Now there's a big story in Europe, I don't think it's gotten out here, but a couple of these snipers who were like paid mercenaries were told to shoot at both the police and the demonstrators. One of the Ukrainian medical people who examined the bodies said, well, this is strange. The demonstrators supposedly were shot by the police. The police shot the demonstrators, but the same type of bullets killed both of them. And these two mercenaries from Georgia have confessed that they were told to shoot indiscriminately to create chaos. That's the Soros method. That's the British method. So Christopher Steele, MI6, British intelligence, still working for the British, is directly implicated in that. That's when they started going after Manafort, because he actually was a consultant to the Yanukovych government back in 2014. So it's really critical that people realize that the British have not changed their stripes. They're still a force for colonial, keeping backwards. Lord Bertrand Russell said, you know, if we control education, give me enough money, I can teach kids that snow is black.
That's right.
You know, snow is black. I will get them to believe snow is black. So I would say if people would like copies of this literature, they can call our office. I can give a phone number. I can give you the website if you want to get copies from our website. Okay? The website is LaRouchePAC.com. So www.LaRouchePAC.com. Or by phone number 323, area code 210-9483. If you call that number and say you'd like a copy of the Mueller dossier, we will have copies of that, and soon we'll have a copy on the economic program of the U.S. joining the New Silk Road. And we do have regular conference calls every week, so keep people updated during the week. And I would suggest, if this move by Armenia to cooperate with China in these New Silk Road projects, Schiller Institute, our cultural institute, has sponsored conferences. We had one in Pasadena a couple years ago. I would suggest a conference on this economic policy, for the Armenian community and friends. So it's not just stop the war. We've stopped the war in Syria. You and others fought against the lies, against the Victoria Nulands and the other Barack Obama liars, okay? But now it's time to win the peace. Now it's time to have a replacement policy. So it's not just, we separated the sides out, but already China, for example, is going to be investing big in the reconstruction of Syria. Okay? So you get this New Silk Road group of nations, they can go into, all the so-called conflict areas and begin to get a peace based on economic cooperation. That was the principle that Mr. LaRouche always talked about. That if people were so busy with the shovels in the ground and the rails and the water, why you want to fight each other? Because the cooperation is what makes us all really human beings. We are all human beings created in the image of the Creator. No matter what religion, no matter what's, this or that, every human being is inherently in the image of the Creator and can make a positive contribution for all of civilization. That's the secret of the economics of LaRouche. That's the secret of what has made China a success. They've brought 800 million people out of poverty. They're giving people a happy life. Why shouldn't everyone have a happy life? That's what the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness doesn't mean, you can run around nude on the streets and pee in the corner. What means pursuit of happiness is that your life means something because your life has made it better for generations that come after. That's the real America. That's what Trump is seeking to bring back, and that's what can happen even clearly over the next 40 to 45 days if we smash Mueller, if we crush this coup attempt, and we pursue this strategy of cooperation in rebuilding the physical economy and having a credit system and having a banking system that's not for the 1%, but is going to support the 99%. That's a very exciting prospect for every
Absolutely.
person, and it's really important that people not put the shackles on themselves because if they think that old system is the only game in town because the media hasn't told you, well, I got news for you. There's a whole new system out there in the world that has succeeded and is succeeding, and we got a president who wants to join hands, and he's already shown it. As I said, the end of the war in Syria, you can thank Trump for that. You can demonstrate Obama's criminality in this, Hillary Clinton's criminality in this, and the openings now to end the war in Ukraine, to work with China and Russia, to get the economy going. This is what the new year, with the Christmas, New Year's, and into the State of the Union address by Trump, this is what we are looking forward to. So I don't know if you have any more questions, or if other people
we've come to the end of our program, actually. I won't be able to ask more questions because we only have a few minutes, but I want to remind the audience, we had phone calls, but it's better to listen from the source, because we're used to listening to regular news that is coming from, as we talked, from the left, from the liberal, or whatever you want to call it, from the global elite, from deep state that is controlled by them. They even have infiltrated into the public school systems. They've infiltrated into human mind that government, you need the government. Without the government, you cannot survive. So this is the other side of the truth, where you don't need the government. You can build your own future and help the government because you are part of the system. But so far, this global elite, they've demonstrated their human hate, hate of individuals, hate of creation. They've tried every means to destroy, educate negativity in the public school systems, educate anything that is anti-human mind, and we see the results. They've incarcerated men that can be head of the family and support the family based on small crimes, not even crimes, based on small addiction. They've destroyed families. And now, not only that, they've destroyed nations, Serbia, Syria, Afghanistan, based under the quotation of terrorism, which there was no such a thing, let's be honest, And they destroyed the whole of Africa, which is Libya. Libya was going to do good for Africa. They destroyed it. They bombarded it. They destroyed the whole country. So seeing all these things, people need to hear from the source. And I want to put the phone number again so people can call and join LaRouche, and they can receive this information, which is very heavy. In Armenian we say meat, which informative. Who are the forces behind destroying the United States and America, our liberty, our independence. So this is right here. So we have about 1 minute, and if you want to, I will give you your last word for 1 minute, and then we have to close the program.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Bedros, and I wish everyone there a sense of recapturing and rediscovering a sense that we can, as a nation, unite, that we don't have to accept the pessimism and the garbage as normal, okay? It's not normal. We're living in a situation where an alternative has been put forward and has succeeded. The new Silk Road, China, 70 countries, Armenia met with the Chinese today at the Foreign Ministry. So we can expect more things to come out of that very soon, where people will begin to see that this policy of economic cooperation, that the United States can go back to Glass-Steagall credit system for production, not for bailout, and for great things like the science of the space program, the wonder of discovery. We have a young lady in Texas, Keisha Rogers, who ran for Congress to impeach Obama and save the space program, and she won the elections in the Democratic Party. So there's a lot of people who are not fooled, but they've got to take the step. And I suggest calling us at 323-210-9483, 323-210-9483, and getting a hold of this literature, getting in touch with us, getting on these conference calls.
I will post this.
And coming to meetings in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Gerald, and I will post this on the YouTube also, and I will post it on the internet, the address and the phone number. Thank you for coming, and I have to close my program. Շնորհակալ ենք այս շաբաթ որ մեզ նայեցաք, եւ այս ինֆորմեյշնները պիտի դրվի YouTube-ի վրա, միջև քա շաբաթ ասված ծեր հետ։
Arrive in style, cause a sensation in the BMW